Well, some very, very great insights there from the International Criminal Court prosecutor KARIM with our very own George Maringa. And remember, you can catch that informative interview on our official YouTube pages. Good evening. It is 9 p.m. East African time on this 4th day of August 2023. Remember, it's on Friday and it is Disruptive Friday. My name is Eric Munene. And
speaking of that interview, quite an insight, a good one here, we'll also be carrying two stories that are equally in relation to the prosecutor.
Yes.
That is in the course of the broadcast. You need to stick around just in case you're joining us and you have missed out on it. You also need to not to worry because it sticks on our social media platforms and therefore you can always get to listen to that later on. But for now, let us focus on Disruptive Friday. Thank you so much for keeping us company right here on TV47. My name is Linda Alela and we're looking forward to a great show that is lined up for you. What is in store?
Here are the top stories tonight.
Deduct all these accrued funds from the salary of the employee who was not whose levy was not deducted because they enjoyed a court order.
The Law Society of Kenya moves to court seeking to block the implementation of the Finance Act 2023.
We have documented at least 24 cases of death and 41 people experienced serious injury.
Human rights groups now say they will sue the Inspector General of Police following cases of extrajudicial killings witnessed in the country. And police in Kisumu have discovered 4 graves at a church compound as they launch a probe into the matter.
Well, the stories there and much more right here in studio before we get to that very important conversation on Disruptive Friday with Eric Munene and the gentleman that will join us for the same. But at this very point, let's kickstart the bulletin. And our sign language interpreter is none other than Kate Simaloi. My name is Linda Lela. Once again, it is good to have you interact with us. The hashtag is Disruptive Friday on this edition of TV47 Weekend. We start off by looking at the reactions as to the Finance Act, and the Law Society of Kenya, LSK, has filed a petition under certificate of urgency to the High Court of Kenya objecting the implementation of the Finance Act 2023, and LSK wants the court to declare the Finance Act illegal, unlawful, null and void. And as Sheila Chelangat reports, the legal minds have opposed the introduction of the housing levy, saying it goes against the principle of social justice.
The wars facing the implementation of the Finance Act 2023 are far from over if the latest petition by the Law Society of Kenya is anything to go by. The petition, filed under extreme urgency, follows the decision by the Kenya Revenue Authority to gazette and enforce what LSK terms as unconstitutional, unlawful and unreasonable Finance Act 2023. That introduced mandatory affordable housing levy. It argues that the implementation threatens the social economic interest of Kenyans against the principle of social justice. LSK also takes issue with the fact that the finance bill was not transmitted to the Speaker of the Senate for consideration. Among other issues that the LSK is against is the affordable housing levy, which makes it mandatory for both the employer and employee to contribute 1.5% to the fund. LSK says that there exists no rationale as to why the government through the National Assembly would force its citizens to contribute to a mandatory scheme in a country where a majority of its citizens are already grappling with harsh economic times due to the existence of multiple layers of taxes.
The employer will find himself in a very difficult position and may have then to levy a double tax on the employer, or rather to deduct all these accrued funds from the salary of the employee who was not levy was not deducted because they enjoyed a court order.
LSK in the petition further argues that the Finance Act 2023 is ignorant of the fact that some Kenyans in the formal sector are owners of homes, therefore the scheme will be of no benefit to them. Petitioners LSK has 13 prayers, among them an order of prohibition be issued restraining the second respondent, whether acting jointly or severally by themselves. Considering
that this is a levy that is collected on salaries. Salaries from the period of 1st of July have already been paid. So therefore, how do you collect and backdate it? It is creating an unreasonable strain on employers who have already paid salaries.
Further, LSK is seeking for a declaration that Section 10 of the Income Tax Act, as amended by Section 7 of the Finance Act, is illegal and unlawful and contrary to the provisions of Article 2 and 43 of the Constitution, and as such null and void. Sheila Chelangat, TV47, Nairobi.
Thank you, Sheila, for that. Now, at least 24 people lost their lives and 41 others injured following altercations with the National Police Service across the Nyanza and Western regions during the 3 cycles of the anti-government demonstrations that were witnessed in the country. And according to a joint report released by Amnesty International, Kenya Medical Association and the Law Society of Kenya that focused on the protests in Kisumu and Kisii, the victims of the protests were all male, aged between 17 and 38 years. And as Grace Courier Kanja reports, a total of 107 people were assaulted by the police in Kisumu County alone.
For over 3 months now, the country has witnessed nationwide anti-government protests that have caused tears, sweat and blood.
Across the 3 cycles of protest, we have documented at least 24 cases of death, and 41 people experienced serious injuries, and this is just across Nyanza and Western counties.
Now, according to the joint report, most deaths were recorded in Kondele and Nyamasaria, with most victims being between the ages of 17 to 38 and overwhelmingly male.
The team found 16 survivors recovering in various hospitals, and 11 bodies were in morgues in the Kisumu.
Some of the victims were picked from their homes by the police, especially within Nyamasaria area. And this includes the case of the miner that we saw that had up to 9 bullets lodged in his body.
107 cases of people assaulted by police officers were attended to at the Jaramogi Oginga Odinga Teaching and Referral Hospital and other health facilities across Kisumu. 47 of those were treated with gunshot wounds, with most bullet exit wounds being on the body's ventral aspect, according to the report,
leading doctors to conclude that most victims were running away or had surrendered.
What we have seen is that the country has slid back to the era where the police are not accountable to the Constitution, but rather are held hostage by political considerations.
Amnesty, KMA and LSK are now recommending that the newly announced bipartisan talks teams revisit the unlawful use of excessive force by police. They are calling for the establishment of a separate parliamentary commission of inquiry to investigate instructions given to police officers. They are also urging the Independent Policing Oversight Authority to complete its investigations, as well as the immediate release of all persons who have remained in custody for more than 24 hours or have not been charged. Grace Courier Kanja, TV47.
Now, following an investigation of war crimes against humanity and genocide, the International Criminal Court, ICC, on the 17th of March 2023 issued arrest warrants against Russia President Vladimir Putin and Russian Commissioner for Children's Rights Maria Lvova-Belova, alleging responsibility for the war crimes. Moscow, in retaliation, issued an arrest warrant for the ICC prosecutor Karim Khan, who had prepared a warrant of arrest for Putin. Karim Khan, the prosecutor at the Hague-based War Crimes Court, was added to the Interior Ministry wanted list now. What is his take on that and other issues, including those facing Kenya? Well, he spoke to our very own George Maringa on a one-on-one exclusive interview.
We need to apply the law, more effectively. Now, when it comes to Africa, look at where we are. I've opened investigations in Venezuela, in the Philippines. We're looking at the Islamic State, Khorasan, and Taliban in Afghanistan. I've applied for warrants that were issued in Georgia. We have an investigation and judges have issued warrants in Ukraine. These are not African countries. And of course, the argument goes beyond that, because before Rwanda, before the Rwandan tribunal, we had the Yugoslav tribunal. These were not African countries. Cambodia is not an African country. And in the majority of situations that the court is active in the continent, they've been referred by the states themselves. There are these exceptions, the Article 15 prior motor powers that the previous prosecutors have used. But I think in my term already, we're trying to build more partnerships with Africa. I've been invited after a gap of 17 years to the last 2 African Union heads of state summits in Addis Ababa. I've just come from the Association of Caribbean States in Guatemala with the GRULAC, the Latin American and Caribbean group. So we're trying to build partnerships everywhere, and I'm trying to create a dynamic in which it doesn't matter if it's me that's the prosecutor or it's the ICC's flag that's behind a judge. We have to find partnerships so the national authority can do better.
Well, we certainly have that interview on our social media platforms. You can always check it out. Now, International Criminal Court Prosecutor KARIM has been awarded with a honorary Doctor of Law degree in the 23rd graduation ceremony at the Mount Kenya University. The event was graced by National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula, and here now is a brief profile of the seasoned international criminal lawyer and human rights activist.
Have supported vulnerable women and children.
International Criminal Court Chief Prosecutor KARIM has added another feather to his academic accomplishments as he was conferred with an honorary Doctor of Laws degree during the 23rd Mount Kenya University graduation ceremony Friday. The former Assistant Secretary General of the United Nations was awarded in recognition of his broad contributions to the rule of law.
It is too important to leave to the Chief Prosecutor of the ICC. Justice is too important to leave to judges of the ICC. It is too important to leave to the judges or prosecutors or defense, even of Kenya. Justice is the God-given right of all of you. Am I right?
The barrister of more than 30 years has been on the forefront championing for education and empowerment of women and girls at community level through his global works of philanthropy.
In the course of service, some people can earn money. Some people can, in the course of serving humanity, they can get fame. But without that service to others, we are empty carcasses.
Lawyer KARIM, the first Talking Now King's lawyer, first hit headlines in Kenya when he represented President William Ruto at the International Criminal Court in 2012. Khan was one of the prosecutors who stood for Ruto and media personality Joshua Sang when they were charged with crimes against humanity in 2007 post-election violence. KARIM has published a number of leading texts on international criminal law and has contributed immensely towards the transformation of communities across different continents by providing educational support. Andrin Kilemi, TV47.
Well, we'll be giving you more updates on the graduation ceremony at the Mount Kenya University, but before then, to a rather unfortunate one. 4 graveyards have allegedly been discovered at the Coptic Church in Kisumu. According to the Director of Public Prosecutions, more discoveries could be made in Father John Pesa's Coptic Church. Now, according to the father, that is Pesa, the graveyards belong to some sisters that used to serve in the Coptic Church Kisumu. This comes as the government cracks the whip on rogue preachers who continue to dupe Kenyans.
Wengine wanajifunza dini kama watu, dini zote watu wanajifunza, wanakaa hapa, na wengine ni wagonjwa, wanaleta wagonjwa waenda wasimu. Kama mtu amepona anaenda kwao. Ndio dini yetu, anajulikana, lakini sio ati tunafungia. Unajua kufungia ni maneno mengine. Hatuwezi kukubali mtu aingie hapa yule ambaye hatujui jina lake, chief yake ni nani, sub chief yake ni nani, na anatoka wapi. Wengine wanakuja kama wanaletwa na mama zao na baba zao. Unaona anapiga mama yake mbele yako, anapiga paka mwanamke analala chini. Hiyo ndio wanakuja kama wanafunga na nyororo. Tunawacha na nyororo zao hiyo paka apone. Mtu kama anakufa hapa Kisumu, anakufa hospitali, analetwa kanisani, anaombewa requiem mass, wanapeleka kwao. Sio kusikwa hapa. Sisters wale ambao wanajitolea wanakufa, na hao sisters huwezi kupeleka kwao, wanasikwa hapa.
Well, certainly not the first time that Father John Pesa is on the spot, and we'll be getting updates of that to keep you posted. But back to a different story, and President William Ruto will tomorrow kick off a 5-day tour of the populous Mount Kenya region, where he will commission various projects and make several stopovers in a region that voted for him overwhelmingly in last year's general election. The president, of course, is set to go to this region, of course, in the president's, and it comes back on the backdrop of a looming handshake and restless region where farmers are stranded with coffee in their farms, as Apollo Kamau details.
President William Ruto's 5-day walking tour in the popular Central Kenya region will not only be a Thanksgiving tour for a region that overwhelmingly voted for him in last year's election, but a crucial visit to address the cancellation of licenses to coffee brokers, a move that has left coffee farmers stranded with coffee in their farms. Also not left behind are milk and tea farmers, as well as unfinished projects under the Jubilee regime.
We in Jubilee, we support His Excellency the President, and we have stated it in the past that we support him as a matter of principle, because basically he is also building on the legacy projects that were done by the Jubilee government. He was part of Jubilee government, and we are always proud that he has decided to carry on the legacy of His Excellency Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, the fourth president.
With the 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote agitation for national revenue allocation gaining traction by the day due to the rising population, the looming handshake between President William Ruto and AZIMIO leader Raila Odinga has made the region restless, with Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua's allies dismissing a power-sharing deal.
We expect that we are going to work together, and as a region we will not in any way, of course, entertain any other person to come and disrupt the agenda of this government, particularly through what they are calling inclusivity in the talks that they are proposing.
We therefore want to tell the president, if there is indeed any discussion that is going to take place, it must not be about power sharing. And we want to say this with no mean word, that we do not and we will not entertain any talks with the opposition, because that would be mockery of democracy.
We know how we serve a dueling handshake. We cannot do that. There is nothing about that. And basically, as we are focused on development, our roads, our water projects, electricity, market, schools, that's what we'll be discussing with the president.
According to State House spokesman Hussein Mohamed, the president's park diary in the counties of Kiambu, Kirinyaga and Nyeri will start off at Githurai, where he will commission a water project and a market. The president will later proceed to Kagio, Kirinyaga County to open a water project. In Karatina, he will commission the Marua State Lodge Road. He will participate in an interdenominational prayer service at Sagana State Lodge on Sunday. On Monday, he begins his work with the commissioning of the 42-kilometer-long Ishamara Kariti Road in Mukurweini constituency, and then later open a bus park in Nyeri town. On Tuesday, he will open the new KCC plant in Kiganjo and later hold a leaders' meeting at Sagana State Lodge. On his last day, Wednesday, The president will commission the 175-bed Narumoro Level 4 hospital. He will then proceed to Gishugu, Kirinyaga County to launch the affordable housing project and then end his tour in Thika, where he will commission the Karimenu Dam water supply project and the affordable housing scheme. Apul Kamau, TV47.
Now, more details on the Mount Kenya University celebrations. That is the 23rd graduation ceremony that were, so a total of 6,108 graduates, honored in the areas of study. The graduation was graced by the Speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Wetangula, and as Gideon, that is Yeri reports, Mount Kenya University founder Professor Simon Gisharu has waived 80 million shillings debt owed by at least 4,000 students who were unable to collect their certificates due to fear of fee arrears, with the students now free to collect these certificates.
It is a new dawn for more than 6,000 graduates following their colorful graduation ceremony that has opened a new chapter in their life as they venture into the world fully equipped with skills and knowledge. Speaking during the ceremony, Mount Kenya University founder Professor Simon Gisharu announced that students who graduated from Mount Kenya University in the past years and failed to collect their certificates due to accumulated fees arrears will now be able to collect their certificates after he waived 80 million shilling debt owed by at least 4,000 students.
I directed the council and the vice chancellor that the board of directors has waived the 80 million shillings for the 4,000 students to collect.
He said the issue of uncollected certificates was worsened by the COVID-19 pandemic that greatly affected the education sector.
From the time of COVID-19, there has been an issue where the university allowed students to sit for the final exam without paying the full fees.
The University Chancellor, Professor John Struthers, has called on the fresh graduates not to have limited potential and be great as they start their new journey in life.
And this shows the resilience of the people in Africa. And this is a great strength.
Speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Wetangula, has challenged the graduates to embrace innovation in our journey to self-employment so as to use knowledge and skills in creating job opportunities.
Embrace innovation and self-determination, whether it's in farming, in teaching, in whatever field.
Mount Kenya University, a beacon of light.
Gideon Yeri, TV47, Nairobi.
And back to some bit of politics as the call for dialogue between President William Ruto's Kenya KWANZA coalition and Raila Odinga's AZIMIO La Umoja coalition continue to gather momentum. The Kenya KWANZA National Dialogue team has urged their counterparts in AZIMIO to extend the date they had proposed to hold their first joint meeting. Initially, the AZIMIO La Umoja Dialogue team, led by Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka, had proposed that the meeting be held on the 7th August this year at the Sarova Hotel. However, the Kenya KWANZA National Dialogue team, led by Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah, stated that their newly constituted team requires time to prepare for the deliberations. Hence, they need to push for the dates to 10th August this year. Through an unofficial statement, Kenya KWANZA National Dialogue team states that the team is not ready to deliberate on personal matters, instead focus on issues affecting the Kenyan or the Kenyans, such as the high cost of living. Now, police in Narok County are holding parents of a 15-year-old girl for allegedly forcing the minor to undergo the cut. The duo are accused of subjecting the minor, who is also 7 months pregnant, to FGM. Here is Elizabeth Atieno with that story.
Friday at the Narok Law Courts, Mary, not her real name, walked through the corridors of justice, fully covered perhaps to hide the shame and pain she was forced to endure in the hands of her very own parents. Appearing before Narok Senior Magistrate Phyllis Shinyanda, Mary relived her painful ordeal on the 15th of July this year, when her parents, Dennis Kishoyan and Merisiana Kishoyan, allegedly forced her to go through the cut despite being 7 months pregnant. She was rescued by Olokurto police officers who got wind of the matter from some area residents. Inspector Benjamin Oswaro, the second witness in the case, narrated to the court how they found the helpless minor lying on her bed in deep pain, where they rescued her and rushed her to Narok Referral Hospital. The suspects, who doubles as the victim's parent, pleaded with the court to free them on bond as their other children were left home all alone.
And from the accused persons themselves, that they have grandchildren back at home, whom they're not sure who's taking care of them. The circumstances are minded to save the bond terms. Accused one to be released on a security bond of 100,000 or Kenya shillings 30,000 cash bail. Accused two will be released on a personal bond with one surety to deposit a national identity card.
The minor is currently living at the Tasaro Rescue Center under Tasaro Ntomonoki Initiative in partnership with Equality Kenya. The case will be heard on the 25th of August 2023. Elizabeth Atieno, TV47.
Now, the construction of the Rongo-Kisii Road has been temporarily stalled after residents discovered gold deposits in Maram excavated from a road reserve. The residents invaded the area in large numbers to harvest the gold ores, as Eric Matika tells us more.
For the last 2 days, hundreds of residents have pitched tent at North Sako Ward, armed with buckets, jembes and other digging materials to scoop the precious metal.
Wananchi walienda huko wakaanza kuchimba penye wa China walijengea huko, alafu wengine wakaenda wakauza, wengine walipata 12,000, wengine wakapata 20,000.
Wenye wanachimba ndio waligundua wakati walibeba hizo machanga wakamwaga, lakini wakati walikuwa wanamwaga kwa barabara ndio watu wakagundua mining hapa.
Tumepata hiyo mchanga tukarogota, ndio tukakuja hapa tumejua ni gold. Sasa tumetest mawe, tumeona kama ni gold, sasa ndio tunatafuta juu tulikesha hapa.
James Mageto, who is the resident engineer for the road project being constructed by the Kenya National Highway Authority, says they have not been able to work since the residents discovered gold in the Maram.
When we started this road, we started with some areas of hard material. Therefore, we were filling hard materials, and these hard materials we are removing from a certain borrow pit, kilometer 32. Therefore, this hard material, it turned to be the gold. Therefore, there are some areas we get the gold, some areas there's no gold.
The residents have called on the government to suspend the road construction project to allow them to harvest the gold, as it is the only chance they have to earn a living at the moment.
Unaona jinsi wamama wamefurika hapa, wanaume wamefurika hapa, na hii ni baraka ya Mungu. Sasa tunawasihi kaunti yetu ya Migori, msifukuze watu hapa, watu watafute mali yao, kila mtu atafute riziki yake.
The project is funded by the World Bank and the Kenyan government and is expected to be completed by December 2024. Eric Matika, TV47.
Quite some good discovery right there. Now, and that's basically what we had for you in terms of the news stories of the day. But at this very point, it's important that we also get to know that get to understand what is in the world of sports. Well, we begin right here in the country, and sensational Kenyan sprinter Mark Otieno, who had been suspended by World Athletics after testing positive of banned substances during the 2020 Tokyo Olympics, has expressed his excitement of making a return to the athletics after he was acquitted by the World Athletics of any wrongdoings. Now, Mark, while speaking exclusively to TV47 Sports Desk, stated that during his suspension, he set his mind on his comeback and continued training rigorously, as he added that sprinting took his mind away from thinking too much about his adversities, hence avoiding psychological stress. And according to Mark, he got overwhelming support from his family and fellow athletes, who kept on checking on him and encouraging him not to give up. Mark is now championing for educating athletes on being cautious of what they consume and being able to understand and differentiate the list of banned substances by the World Anti-Doping Agency, WADA, so as to avoid a suspension.
When this situation when you come, I think ilifika ile place ya what will I do next? Because now when you say kila mtu ananiona ni ile like, will I sit down? Will I, nikae chini tuendelee kuongoleza all the way mpaka saa zile results ipatikane? But nilifika at one place where I was like, let me train. Let me continue training by faith, knowing that this thing will be over. So the past 2 years I've been training. It's been quite challenging mentally, physically, spiritually, but I will say they were challenged during the first period of me being suspended. But now going forward, at least I train like an athlete, knowing that I'm still in the season. Of course, knowing that I can't participate, but I kept my hopes high, and I kept knowing that one day at one point that this thing will end. There are things and there are measures that need to be taken seriously. Like, let me use my example because I've been there. When it comes to now supplement use, I believe now going forward, what I've learned for the past 2 years is something that we want to now educate the next athletes going forward, because I've seen right now they want to test, and contamination, we always tell people it can happen to anyone, So now going forward, whatever that I've learned now, it's a matter of now putting it now into education and educating other athletes not to fall into the same trap.
And with the various clubs taking part in the top-tier football league in the country continuing to bolster their squads ahead of the 2023-2024 FKF Premier League season, Tusker FC has been the latest club to improve its squad with the acquisition of 5 new players. The Brewers have signed a 26-year-old Joseph Mwangi, that is from Zoya Sugar, who scored 14 goals and made 7 assists in 30 matches for the Bungoma-based club. Meanwhile, 25-year-old James Kibande also put pen to paper in his contract with Tusker FC from Kenya Police FC, while 22-year-old midfielder Fabian Adikini joined the club from the newly promoted side, Muranga Sale. Other players to join the club include Ugandan John Biamukama and goalkeeper Edwin Simiyu, who was promoted from the Tusker FC's junior team to the senior team.
Football, anything can happen, but our aim was to win the league, but we didn't manage. At last minute, we collapsed around 2 matches to go. We don't want to repeat those kind of mistakes. And I think it's about mental strength. We lacked at last 2 matches, 3 matches in fact. We are trying to bring a new life and new players who can also change their style of play and also to put more life in the team.
Especially this season, nimeambia mafans last season ilikuwa narrow miss kwa cup pia kwa ligi, but this season naweza ambia let down. This season KPL kwanza lazima tutoke nayo kwanza. Hopefully itakuwa BA. Mafans pia tunaweza wachapia hii season ni expect more assists, more goals from Fabian Barthez.
Nashukuru sana kujoin Tusker na nimekuja kubeba cup vikombe kusaidia wenzangu tubebe cup juu huku ni machampe. Sa lazima pia mimi ni work pamoja nao tuzidi kuleta vikombe hii team.
As a player this season I want to win a trophy with this team, so I'm going to give all my best for the team so we can win more trophies here.
Now, the Safaricom CHAPA DIMBA football tournament is set to hold the first county finals in VIHIGA County this weekend. Finalists Eboali Boys and Bunyori Assassins will lock horns in the boys category, while Madira Girls will go head-to-head with the Maroon Queens at the Mumboa Stadium in Luanda Saturday afternoon. The VIHIGA finals will be followed by Busia, Kakamega and Bungoma County finals and the following weekend of 12th and 13th August as the county winners proceed to play at the Western Regional Finals to be held at the Buhungu Stadium later in the month. The Western Region League of the tournament kicked off in June at ward level, featuring total of 441 teams.
We are officially launching.
Alright, tutakuwa ingia kwenye kipindi cha pili hapa. Nifahamisha kwamba dakika 7 kipindi cha kwanza dakika 7, kipindi cha pili dakika 7. Anaanza vijana timu ya Borogoro, anacheza mchezaji Mwite Gitao. Anakuja anapiga ngoma kwa uzuri, tunapendezana kumtafuta mchezaji anamuita nani? Daniel Ben amtilia. Piga hesabu ya kwanza ya pili, anakuja na geuza kujaribu kuachia. Vijana timu ya Borogoro wale, lakini wanakuja na pokonyo ile mpira, vijana timu ya Hakati.
Well, that's all we had for you in the world of sports, and I'm sure that you are excited to hear what Eric Munene has in store for us this evening. Of course, on that edition of Disruptive Fridays, all set and standby with his guests to tell us more about what is playing out in the world of cryptocurrencies or the world of just generally